I heard calls underwater. Something's out there. Slash wounds made by a blade. Something's not right.
You'd think there's a war down deep as well.
I'm sure of it.
They're here. Time to say hello.
The land of the continent is home to humans, elves and dwarves. That is their domain. But they better stay away from the water, as deep below the waves of lakes and oceans alike lie the cities of the Vodyanoy. And they don't take kindly to trespassers. You might have heard about the Vodyanoy, but in this video I'll tell you everything that you might want to know about them. Throughout the books and games, the Vodyanoy make a number of appearances, the most notable two being in the short story A Little Sacrifice and in The Witcher 1. The Vodyanoy, at a first glance, might be written off as a monster, as they look like a combination between a fish and a reptile, green scales covering their bodies and a mouth filled with sharp fish-like teeth. They show no emotions in their blank fish eyes, making it hard to see any intelligence in them. Just like fish, they breathe using gills. As a result, they can only come above water for short moments before having to dive back in for air. This is also what prevents them from going on land or above the surface of the water. The Vodyanoy are amongst the most intelligent creatures living in the oceans and lakes of The Witcher. They have their own language.
What's Witcher in your language?
Witchmalal Bull.
Witchmalal?
Witchmalal Bull. Bull must be. No, Bull means idiot.
All right, then I'm Witchmalal Bull.
Yes, so you be.
As well as they are able to build underwater cities and forge weapons and armor. How they manage to forge underwater, I don't know, but they seem pretty handy with it. We know of two cities on the continent that belong to the Vodyanoy. The city of Is, which lies off the coast of Bremerford, and the city at the bottom of Lake Vizima. Near the mysterious city of Is, the Vodyanoy are very protective of their borders. They don't like it when humans get close, or when they are trying to steal stuff from the Vodyanoy. Once pearl divers from Bremerford started to get close to Is, the Vodyanoy attacked. They killed the pearl divers and fishermen that came too close, leaving only a ship deck covered in blood. The people of Bremerford never knew about the underwater city that was close to their town. They didn't even know about the Vodyanoy. This allowed them to live in peace for a long time. Once they ventured too close to Dragon Fangs and got to the steps of Is when they got too close for the Vodyanoy's comfort. The Vodyanoy that live in the sea seem to live in harmony with several other sea-dwelling races, like mermaids and sea witches. Tension, however, started to rise between the Vodyanoy and the humans. Agloval, the Duke of Bremerford, wanted to wipe them out. He wanted the Great Sea to belong to the humans, and to drive away and massacre the Vodyanoy. He wanted to place archers on boats, shooting at all the Vodyanoy that attacked the pearl divers. When the Vodyanoy of Is were attacking, they would ring the bells in the cities, possibly as a warning or as a sign for the Vodyanoy to put on their armor, grab their weapons, and dispose of the threat. This armor that they forged wasn't made of steel. Instead, they seemed to use copper. How they got their hands on copper is not explained, but most likely it came from sunken ships. When in the water, the Vodyanoy are very hard to beat. When Geralt faced off against a few, while up to his waist in water, they seemed to use it to their advantage, as they could move faster in the water, and used it to hide their weapons. Geralt managed to cut down a few, but was injured while trying to retreat, as they outnumbered him so much that he didn't stand any chance. Geralt would have been killed by the Vodyanoy if not for the intervening of the mermaid Shinaz. In the end, when the war between land and sea dwellers was about to break out, this mermaid prevented it all from happening by turning into a human with the help of a sea witch, as she now could marry her beloved Agloval and stop him from starting a war. The word of what happened between the humans and Vodyanoy spread, especially among the water dwellers, as Shinas had told the Lady of the Lake what had happened and how Geralt had helped.
I have confidence in my source. The mermaid Shinaz.
Mermaid?
Yes. Why are you surprised?
What did Shinaz tell you?
That you prevented conflict between the Prince of Aglaval and the inhabitants of the underwater city of Iz. Thanks to you and your friends, humans and the Vodyanoi of Iz tolerate one another.
The Lady of the Lake is an important figure for humans and Vodyanoy alike, as we can see in The Witcher 1, where she was worshipped by most of the Vodyanoy living in Lake Vizima. She was even responsible for calming the tensions between the nearby humans of Murky Waters and the Vodyanoy. They found peace, and one of the Vodyanoy, who was a priest that worshipped the Lady of the Lake, could often be found at her altar. He managed to stay above water for longer, due to the type of mask that the local Vodyanoy used to breathe above water, making them way more dangerous for the local population, as they could attack humans in their homes. But the Lady of the Lake, even though by far the most commonly worshipped entity by the Vodyanoy, wasn't the only deity that was worshipped. There were a few other Vodyanoy that worshipped an entity named Dagon. I'll make a video on him soon, but I'll give a quick explanation about who he is. Dagon is a creature coming from Lovecraftian lore, and he cannot be killed. He leads some Vodyanoy away from the belief in the Lady of the Lake and into a more hostile path. The Vodyanoy that follow Dagon will attack you on first sight in The Witcher 1. They can't be reasoned with and will drive away the friendly Vodyanoy priest from the lady's altar. In order to return peace between the people of Murky Water and the Vodyanoy, Dagon has to be dealt with. The Lady of the Lake and Dagon were both worshipped by the Vodyanoy. They, in turn however, combined with Dagon, were worshipped by the brickmakers in the swamp next to Vizima. They never had the same relationship with them as the people of Murky Waters had, yet they worshipped them like gods, referring to them as the Water Lords. Shrines can be found in and around the village that are the same ones as can be found in Dagon's temple. These brickmakers can also be found praying to these shrines. But why do the brickmakers worship the Vodyanoy? It seems like the Vodyanoy protect these brickmakers from outside threats. But it all gets stranger, for there's a mysterious boy among those from the village. This boy speaks in a strange manner, and seems a bit off. It turns out that he's half human and half Vodyanoy, being born to a female one of their race. I don't really know how this is possible, but this is what is claimed by Vaska, the village eldress of the brickmakers. We can actually kind of see the city these worshipped Vodyanoy live in, due to a mirage. While the Vodyanoy and the humans might be in conflict with each other, this can be stopped by Geralt, and peace will return between the humans and the Vodyanoy. There is one thing I have to mention about the Vodyanoy in The Witcher, and that is that there are some slight contradictions with these creatures. To elaborate, the creatures in The Little Sacrifice are never in the short story referred to as a Vodyanoy, only as something along the lines of fish people. In the Season of Storms, a monster appears that is called a Vodyanoy. This beast, however, is described in almost the same exact way as the creatures were described in The Little Sacrifice. The main difference seems to be the size and possibly their intelligence. I therefore assume that there is a subspecies of the Vodyanoy that is larger and has less mental capacity than some of its counterparts. This subspecies mainly seems to inhabit rivers and swamps. It can sometimes be controlled by an Aguera to do their bidding. In the book, there was only one in Season of Storms. In the Dark Horse CDPR comic, however, they turned this a bit up, and a large group of Vodyanoy attacked the boat there. Which isn't the only change they made to this part of the Season of Storms story in the comic, but it's not for importance for this video. I've been talking about the Vodyanoy in The Witcher for the last few minutes. Now let's transition into the inspiration for these creatures. Vodyanoy, according to Slavic mythology, are water spirits. They are said to look like a naked old man with a frog face, a greenish beard, and long hair. They are also said to be covered in black fish scales and have webbed paws instead of hands. These creatures were often said to be responsible for local drownings. It was said that when angered, a Vodyanoy would break dams and drown people and animals alike. Sacrifices and offerings were often made to them by those that needed water for their work. But these creatures were still said to sometimes take people underwater to have them work as slaves. There are, however, a few differences between these creatures depending on the location. For example, the Czech version of the Vodyanoy, named Vodnik, looks like a human with gills and webbed membrane between their fingers, seeming way more human-like as a result. They were said to be able to be both friendly and hostile. In the latter case, they would drown anyone who swam in their water, and would store their souls in porcelain teapots. It is clear to see that Vodyanoy in The Witcher differ quite a lot from these creatures, as Witcher Vodyanoy seem to live in a society, divided into warriors and priests. It is worthy to note that the Vodyanoy priests are able to cast a few simple spells to help their warriors in combat, for example by healing them. It is not very hard to distinguish the warriors from the priests, due to the large hats that the priests wear. You might notice that the Vodyanoy in The Witcher 1 fight with their hands and claws. Early in development, they were supposed to use weapons, to show that they are sentient, but this was all scrapped in the end. In A Little Sacrifice, we get the following quote from Geralt. "And there, at the ocean bottom, lives a race that uses weapons, knows the secrets of working metal. Beware, Aglaval. If archers begin following the divers to the surface, you will provoke a war with something you know nothing of. The thing you wish to disturb may prove a hornet's nest. I advise you to leave them at sea. The sea is not for you. The sea is not for humans. The waters of the continent have their own sentient species, and they will attack the humans if they are provoked." So what do you think of Vodyanoy? Would you like to see them making a return in future Witcher games? Do you think they could pose a real threat to humans? Till next video. Bye.